Good morning, Eugene. How are you?
Morning, Jana. I'm great today. Good. How are yourself?
And can't complain, despite the weather and the turn in that. But today we are going to talk about the whole school approach, the cross-curricular approach, because thousands and thousands of parents up and down the country have been opting their children out of the SPHE, the RSE program due to the controversial content that we have been publicizing over the last couple of years. However, what the Department of Education is doing now, which is a subversion of parental rights, is they are putting this inappropriate content across all subjects. And today we're going to review and do a deep dive into a book called Louder Than Words. So Eugene, I'll bring that up and we can talk through the woke education and how it's really replacing education with activism. And this is an English book. So I'll turn it over to you to dive into this book, which is quite an
Yeah.
eye-opener.
Yeah. Thanks, Jana. So I guess this is happening. So Louder Than Words is probably one of the first real manifestations of it. We became aware of it a number of months ago, and we're going to cover some of the material from that book today. This is on schoolbooks.ie. You can purchase it. It's a 3-year program for junior cycle English. This is the kind of contents. And again, it doesn't really highlight what you're going to see in a few minutes when we talk about it. Master the language, check poetic devices, literary terms, and other terminology. You really have no idea of what you're going to see now in a few minutes. It doesn't give you any indication, which is why parents wouldn't know. So I guess what we have to, before we get into it, this is what we're going to be looking out for, Jana, because this is what appears in these books. And I call it the UNESCO DCU, Dublin City University. I don't want to discredit them because they're part of this, and the NCCA. And these are the indoctrination topics these organizations are pushing into our school. So all three of them are basically doing it together, and then facilitated by the Department of Education and the publishers, I might add. Because remember, these books aren't signed off by the Department of Education. So if you went to the Department of Education in the morning, they could say to you, well, we didn't sign off on that book. You need to bring that issue up with the publisher, etc. And basically, nothing to do with us. It's you and the publisher kind of thing, right?
It's worth noting that we sent a recent email a couple of weeks ago to every TD, every senator, the Minister for Education, and over 200 media outlets to show them through the Freedom of Information Act reply from the Department of Education that the school books in your child's classroom do not have a sign-off process or risk assessment. As you said, the Department of Education is referring us to the publisher. We have publishers like Folan's referring angry parents to the teacher. We have publishers like Gill, where we got a whistleblower staff member send us a copy of an email that was sent to the staff from Margaret, the CEO at Gill, saying, don't engage with parents. Don't engage with the Natural Women's Council if it comes across your desk or your social media. So they are, sidelining parents, and parents who want to opt out, they don't have the right to opt out of, because it's now poisoned the English books and every other subject.
Yep. Yeah, we'll see that now in a few minutes. So these are the topics you'll be looking out for: gender ideology in all its forms, social justice and all the elements of that, which could include racial justice, for example, immigration, that kind of thing, climate and sustainable development, of course, climate change, and global citizenship. So expect to find these things in your English book, right? So you didn't see these on the page, did you? We didn't see any of this on the web page, but we'll see it now in a few minutes. So let's move on. So here we go. Louder Than Words, whole school indoctrination. So let's talk about non-binary identities, which I guess you might be surprised to find in an English book, but it's here.
Sponsored by TENI. I see the little TENI, Trans Equality Network Ireland.
Exactly. So,
and just to let our listeners know, another Freedom of Information Act request that was done that came back is allowing TENI and Belong To in the classroom. Has it been risk assessed? And we got confirmation that no, it hasn't been risk assessed. And teaching children pronouns and non-binary contradicts the CAS review. This is socially engineering, socially transitioning children into transgender ideology, which contradicts medical advice.
So you thought you'd opted your child out of SPHE or RSE to not get exposed to this material, and here it is appearing in their English book. So I guess this should be concerning for parents who are not interested in that. And again, it's contaminating the English subject as well. That's the other issue, of course, it's taking from it. Now, there's another thing I want to show here. There's a link on this page that's in the book, right? So there's a link here. And we're going to take a look at where that link brings us to. And it brings us to this page here, to this hard left activist website, right? So there's a link to this site in the book, right? And again, this talks about 10 myths about non-binary people. This is from the actual page. It's a feminist activist page, a social justice activist page. This thing here, see, the Everyday Feminism is the name of it. It's an American website. So your child is reading this book, and all of a sudden, if they take that link and go to this page, now they're looking at this activist page on feminist. And of course, as we know, feminist activism, as it's represented here, is Marxist activism. It's BLM type activism. It's gender activism. All of them go together, right? So there's a suite of them here. So I call it Marxist brainwashing and indoctrination from this Everyday Feminist website, and you can see it all there. School for Social Justice. These are all the topics on that webpage. Again, a screen grab from the webpage. Racial justice, you'll see over there. LGBTQ, trans, etc. So you thought your child was doing an English class, and all of a sudden you've ended up here in this radical Marxist feminist website with all the stuff that's on it. So let's go back to the book. So we said we might find some climate change stuff. So here we have Greta Thunberg, and no one is too small to make a difference. Okay, so here we are talking about climate activism in an English book, and it talks about her speech at the UN Climate Summit. This is absolutely promoted by UNESCO and the United Nations. So there's nothing surprising here. But the issue is that it's in an English book. That's the issue. In my opinion, and
it's
hence
causing fear
no
and
idea.
anxiety. So we've had parents contact us to say their children were coming home from school extremely fearful and anxious. One child even said, I don't think I should have children because the earth won't be here. So they're putting this climate alarmism, not backed by any fact. If they wanted facts, they could show the history that climate has always changed. And this is just a control tactic to put fear and anxiety in children and control them under this. It's the green leaf of Marxism. We'll make it look green and clean, but it's just as devious as the transgender ideology.
Yeah, well, it's a control agenda, basically. It's to force people to do things. It forces indoctrination in schools. It's to force governments to make various decisions, etc. And it's an agenda. That's the point. So here we go. You can read Greta Thunberg's speech. They give you a link to it if you want to go through that. So yeah, let's move on. So we've seen climate changes here, and here another page talking about it again. This eco warrior, putting Greta Thunberg, I suppose, as a model, a role model for your child.
And Eugene, which kind of activist are you? So it's teaching our children, do you want to be a citizen activist, rebel activist, or reformer? So our children won't learn English, science, math, geography, but they'll learn about how to be a global citizen and choose what type of activist they want to be to push the government agenda.
Yeah, and this is in the NCCA document, their strategic document, Jana. We've talked about it before. We'll flash it on the screen so people can see it. It's on page 7 of their strategic plan. You know that Irish school children need to be agents for change, for social transformation, basically. Okay, so you can see that what this is. Like this is no place in an English book. This is replacing scholarship and learning with activism. Sense and sustainability. Okay, so instead of doing your English, your Jane Austen classic, you're going to be talking about sustainability instead. And Greta's story appears again, of course, on the right-hand side here. And there's plenty of this in the book, right? Our house is on fire.
Is on fire. There we go. Let's scare the children. The earth's on fire. It's going to blow up. You should be, traumatized about this and not have children. I mean, this is just fear-mongering innocent minds at school.
Yeah. Now we're doing a separate video, Jana, on there's a book review we're going to do on the indoctrinated brain. And what's interesting in that book is it talks about stress and trauma for anybody actually, but children in particular, because it has a bigger impact for children. And what it does is it actually kind of it bypasses their normal critical thinking, because they can't, once the child gets to a level of stress, they can no longer apply that, and it's a means of indoctrinating basically, because you can bypass that, and you're appealing to the child on an emotional level, and it's a way of creating a lot of trauma and facilitating indoctrination. That's the problem, because you get rid of the critical thinking aspect, and the stuff goes straight into the child's head. It goes right into their brain emotionally, and they latch on to this message and any other messages that you might have regarding sustainability or social justice or anything else. It's a vehicle for indoctrination when you start doing this, when you start fear-mongering and bringing trauma and stuff into children. And we'll talk a little bit about that when we do the book review, but that's what's going on here when they bring up headlines like this. So I think to be aware of that. Again, these are relatively young children. We're talking about 12, 13-year-olds here, that are seeing this. And here we go, the LGBTQ pride flags, the trans flag, for example, Black Lives Matter, the gender equality, which we've talked about before, the doublespeak of gender equality. Like all of this is an English book. I thought we were supposed to be talking about English here and learning about English comprehension and studying classics and things like that, and poetry. And no, we have to get the political message out, right?
Yeah.
It's not good enough. It's not good enough. This is not inappropriate. This book should be taken off the shelf. I'd be raging if I was. I'm not a parent, but if I was, I'd be having this book off. I'll tell you. Individuals and identities. Here we go. Identity politics, belonging, understanding. So we're getting into the world of identity politics, which is another vector of indoctrination and a means of controlling people. So unfortunately, getting into the immigration aspect, again, appealing to the emotions, right? Trying to, get on the emotional heartstrings. This is supposed to be an English book. That's the problem I have with all of this. And there's pages of this. There's pages of this stuff.
And Eugene, it's important to note for parents who want their children to go out and get a good job in the world and be able to buy a house and have a family. As this woke ideology collapses across the globe, and Ireland is like the last one standing with it, our children will be dumbed down. Our children won't get the right education. So when they try to enter the global job market, they're not even going to get through a job interview because they won't have critical thinking. They'll certainly know what the colors of a trans flag means and they'll know not to misgender anyone, but they won't have the real skills to get a real job. So your children's future, because of this indoctrination and dumbing down, they won't have a future.
Yeah, and the other problem, Jana, of course, which is not hidden. It's the hidden curriculum, which is the pedagogy. We talk about pedagogy. People don't understand it. It's not written in the book, but it's implicit in the way this book is being presented, that you would be teaching this through the vector of a critical pedagogy, the Paulo Freire, looking for sources of power and oppression, through this kind of critical Marxist lens, etc. And again, focused on social transformation and activism. So not only is the book content like this, but the way it would be taught and the way EJA and the NCCA would want to taught, and DCU would be using critical pedagogy as well. So, and that's not visible, but that's equally as bad as the content itself. So again, to be aware of that, and we've covered that in other videos. How to come out as gay, okay, in an English book. What's it doing here? It's just more of the same, right? You can see the closet there with the pride flag behind it, somebody getting out of the closet, obviously.
And Eugene, if anyone wants to pause on the podcast here, they can pause and do a screen grab and start, getting all of these images of the most outrageous pages out on social media. So feel free to hit pause, screen grab, and tweet them out to show people what's really in the school books. These are real school books. I wish it was a conspiracy. I wish it was fake, but this is a real school book, louder than words.
Yeah, and it's you can see again on the right-hand side here, it's political message. They're trying to entrench this political message into children attending their English class. Be kind. Be Canalta.
Be Canalta, be kind. Follow our website for that campaign. Be kind, bringing in transgender ideology down to age 5. And if your 5-year-old believes doesn't believe there's more than two sexes, they'll be called a bully at school.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I talked about the critical pedagogy. You can see it here. Power and powerlessness. Again, political message, looking at power dynamics in an English class. This is unforgivable. It really is. It really is. If I was a parent, I'd be absolutely raging at the NCCA and the DCU people who feed this garbage in. And I directed at them. Folan's as well shouldn't be publishing it, because they're complicit in the whole thing. And of course, the department don't take any responsibility for it. But this is outrageous. It really is. And here we go, seeking refuge. Somebody's journey from Afghanistan. It's like, and I've nothing against the poor little child from Afghanistan, right? But they're just being used here, and this is just it's used manipulation. As I said, it's trying to play off the heartstrings of children, etc., and appeal to them at an emotional level, not a rational thinking level, right? That's the problem.
And the idea of how to teach your child to be creative, you can see on the bottom right here, there's an exercise, get creative. They want your child in school to design an infographic for people in Ireland who want to help refugees. So there you go. There's a boatload of people there. Flood them all in. Don't question it. Bring all the refugees in, indoctrinating your child that we should have open borders without any control.
Yeah, because the Communist Manifesto calls for, the working man has no nation, right? That's in the Communist Manifesto. It's open borders. This is communism. That's what this is. Globalism. It's which is rooted in communism. It's one and the same. So people need to see it for what it is. Stand up, speak out, right? Protest, activism, equality, citizen. So we got a bit of global citizenship coming in here as well, of course.
And that aligns with what came out in the news this week, telling the Irish people that there are really no Indigenous Irish people. We're not homogenous. Irish people are mongrels. So we saw in the legacy mainstream media calling Irish people mongrels. They're not really Irish. They're global citizens. I don't think many Irish would be happy being called a mongrel or being told they're a global citizen. No, they're Irish. And they should be proud to be Irish. Ireland has never colonized any other country. Ireland was oppressed for 800 years.
Yeah. So again, you can just see it. It's just bringing in this whole activism thing. And it's just politicizing your English class. They've destroyed your English class here. They really have. They're ripping it to pieces.
Is there any reason that the government, any surprise the government bought the books and the books stay locked up at school and there's secrecy contracts in the books? Obviously, if parents were able to buy these books and see the books, they probably wouldn't be happy. But I would say anyone listening, it's your right as a parent to say, I want to see every one of my children's school books, including their online toolkits. So a call to action is ask to see the books, ask for the online toolkit links. I found transgenderism being taught down to age 5 under different family, same love, that wasn't risk assessed. So every parent should ask to see their books. And I would take it a step further. If there's something in your child's book that you don't agree with, it's your right to rip those pages out.
Yep. And I guess a couple of things that you miss. I mean, one of the things you learn from English, and particularly when you go through the classics, which, of course, any Marxist is going to say, oh, that classic was written by a slave owner or by something else, right? So what you learn from that usually is things like how to read people, different types of characters. If you ever read Dickens, for example, he portrays different characters in different ways, and it's a way of learning about people and about character, good character, bad character, because you can see the people who are obviously not of good character, and that comes out. And that's one of the things you kind of learn. But here it's all politics and activism. That's unfortunately what you're getting, and you're not getting the other learning that you would have got historically, that we would have got, for example, in school. And it's been denied our children today. Look at this girl power stuff, right? It's this feminist theory again coming here. Fight for your own right.
Fight for your rights as girls, but the same people telling you to fight for your rights are telling you that you should accept a man using your girl's toilet or a man competing against your girl on the GAA pitch. So fight for your rights and girl power. I couldn't see anything more hypocritical written by these Marxists.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because ultimately, feminist theory that, true gender equality, if you take it through the extreme can only be achieved in a fully communist society where men and women are totally equal in the workforce. There's absolutely no distinction. The family is gone. There's no requirement for women to raise children or act as wives or anything. Like, all of that's gone. So you're 100% equivalency in this kind of communist utopia world that these people would like to promote, right? So that's why the family has to go as well when you start bringing in feminist theory. It just goes on and on, Jan. It gets a bit nauseating after a while. Black Lives Matter masks, no surprise. Again, a real Marxist organization run by Marxists, run by self-proclaimed trained Marxists, BLM, right? And here we are wearing the masks, people taking the knee. This has kind of been creeping into our sport, as we know, Jan, and people, unfortunately, as that thing of taking the knee at football matches, right? Very much in the women's sports in particular, like the USA soccer team, were basically an activist team promoting trans ideology. They'd wear the trans colors and that, as part of their uniforms, etc. So this is what you get. Like, this is taking away from learning. It's nonstop, Jan, unfortunately. So we'll skip through this quickly because it's racism, critical race theory. And again, when we talk about the whole notion of indoctrination and the way of bypassing the thinking brain, the way to do that is appealing to emotion and stress, introducing stress, as in, the climate catastrophe. Are you homophobic? Do you have white privilege? etc. And you need to renounce that white privilege and be an activist, for BLM, this kind of thing, right? It's just more and more. I think that's the end of what I have here. I suppose it was to give people a taster for what's in this book. I think we've seen all the areas. I think we've seen global citizenship, social justice. We've seen gender ideology in here as well, and we've seen the climate and sustainability stuff coming into it. So what is that doing in a book, an English book? That's the issue. People can take screenshots of this, as I said, and
we've seen enough. If there's another 100 pages, I can't say that it would be much different. We've seen enough of the indoctrination from this English book, and this is really, I believe, my view is that because so many thousands of parents have opted out of the indoctrination through the SPHE and the RSE, that the Department of Education has now put it into all subjects with the whole school approach, the cross-curricular approach. It subverts the parental rights to be able to opt out because it's in every subject out there. So.
Yeah, and that's advocated for by UNESCO, that's advocated for by DCU and the NCCA. So it's not a surprise that you see it, okay? And remember, this is also going to be taught using that Paulo Freire critical pedagogy. Those themes would be what would be called as generative themes in the world of Paulo Freire. So immigration would be a generative theme. So in the middle of the English class, we're going to have a discussion on immigration. We're going to have a discussion on racial tolerance, climate justice, etc.
Yep.
That's how it works, right?
And just as a reminder, there's the cover of the book for everyone. Just as a reminder, if you want to see if this is in your child's class, but it hasn't been risk assessed, it hasn't been safeguarded, there's no sign off. This is just a publisher went rogue with a group of hard left activists who have clearly infiltrated our children's education. So I think it's a good place to close here. And just as a call to action, get a hold of all your children's school books, look through the pages, ask to see the toolkits. What's happening behind closed doors is something you may not be aware of, but children need education, not indoctrination. So I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast, and make sure you stay tuned for our next one, which will be reviewing a book talking about how this actually damages the children's brains.